Good afternoon, everyone. This class, I'd like to discuss about different application services for there in different cloud vendor platforms. So, in the yesterday's class, we have discussed about different compute as well as storage services, compute and as well as storage services in different cloud platforms. So, the cloud platforms are AWS. Okay, so we have number of compute services for AWS like EC2. Okay, so if you can go for AWS, the storage services can be like S3, EBS, and all these were comes under the category of AWS. Okay, and when you are going for Google Cloud Platform, Google Cloud Platform, or otherwise we can name it as GCP. Everybody is calling it right now as Google Cloud Platform. So in this Google Cloud Platform, again we have compute services like Compute Engine, and we have storage services like again Google containers which were there like object-oriented storage. And when you are going for storage, which is of block storage, we can have some Google block containers. Again, there is another storage. And coming to the database services, you have database services in Google Cloud Platform for Google Cloud SQL. So that is a structured query language kind of thing. That means structured data will be handled here. And in AWS, we have some SimpleDB, and we have Aurora database, which was developed by AWS. And we have, if you suppose if you have your own license, that can also be useful to install your AWS database services, AWS Cloud Platform. So again, when you are going for Azure, Azure is also have some compute services like Windows Azure Virtual Machines, VMs. The name itself it is indicating that Windows Azure Virtual Machines, and you have object-oriented service as like AWS and Google Cloud. Here also we have object-oriented storage services, but fortunately we have block storages in Azure. So there are two types of block storages. Those are called as blobs. These blobs again they are divided into block blobs, and again they were divided into page blobs. Already I have told you what is block blob and what is page blob. So when you are transmitting an amount of information, which is a huge amount of large chunks of information, if you are using block blob, if any transmission got failed, so at that particular point of time, from that particular place, the transmission got resumed. But whereas page blobs are not like that; those can be resumed back from different random positions of that particular blocks of information. So that is about block blobs and page blobs. And Azure is also supporting SQL databases. Okay, so which we have already discussed about these things. And Azure also supports dynamic, that is unstructured and semi-structured databases, which we have already talked about in the earlier classes. But today we need to talk about there is a good concept, which is an interesting concept, and we need to know the different kinds of names of different services. So I may also forget some different kinds of services because in AWS totally initially AWS consists of 162 services of different wide variety of services, but I cannot name all the 162 services in this particular class. And in Google Cloud Platform also we have typically 156 services. In Azure also we have some different kinds of 124 services. I think so. Okay, so these are the initial numbers. Right now they may change. They have increased up to different levels. So we are naming only a specific kind of services in our lectures because we have limited number of topics and we have limited number of services which we have mentioned in our syllabus, so that we are restricted to these things. Getting my point? So now what I want to tell you is I want to discuss about application services. I want to tell you about different types of application services on different cloud platforms. Already I think I have given an overview of application services in different platforms. So, and these application services are again divided into different types of categories. We have application services like, for example, queuing services. What is this queuing service can do? That means whatever the information you are requesting from your end in the sense from the cloud user end, that can be captured by the broker on behalf of you, and it have to be submitted to the corresponding cloud vendor. So based on the information which submitted by this cloud user have to be captured and have to be submitted to the task manager. The task manager have to take a decision out of your request, and then the corresponding request have to be processed. So in order to process this request, it needs to wait for some time. That means it needs to be sent from the cloud user side to the cloud provider side. So for that, a queue will be maintained. A queue will be maintained. So in different cloud platforms like AWS, or maybe in Google, and I think in Azure also we have this one. Am I right or wrong? I have to check it. Yeah, we have queuing services in these three cloud platforms, because queuing service is a typical important service which can be used for any cloud platform, because if any tasks have to be processed up, or if any requests have to be processed in the cloud platform, or maybe the response which is coming from the cloud provider side to the cloud user, again you need to have a queuing service. Okay, for example, you have given a request. How you will give the request? So you are accessing cloud console. Am I right? You are accessing the cloud console. How can you access the cloud console? Again, there is an application. So that application should be run from a web browser. Again, am I right or wrong? From the web browser, you are accessing the cloud console. So that application will be there. For example, if you are a AWS customer, what you will do? Typically, you will open Mozilla Firefox or maybe any browser, Chrome or maybe something else. Okay, so you will open a browser and you will request like https://aws.amazon.com. That means you are requesting via a particular protocol called HTTPS. That means you are requesting this HTTPS over the web, because if you want to access cloud, you need to connect to the network, and that it is an internet here. So you are accessing the cloud vendor's network via this request. Okay. So whatever the request you have pinged in the URL, that request has to be processed by the cloud vendor, whether you are a valid customer or not. So upon entering into this particular cloud console, if you want to access any service, or if you want to access any service means for example, I want to launch an instance in AWS console by using EC2 service. So click on some launch instance, and the process will be done, right? So if you are eligible to access this EC2, that particular process is going on. Am I right or wrong? So that means you will choose some operating system, you will choose some templates, and you will install the EC2 on your account, that is AWS console account. So this processing, that is this installation of all these things, selection of this particular service, and all these things have to be carried out in a backend by a service, because like you only, lot of users will be accessing that particular AWS console. Right or wrong? So whenever you are accessing it, so you need to render, or that particular cloud vendor have to render the service for you. Okay, that service or the task, whatever the task you are giving to that particular cloud vendor, it have to execute. It have to execute and give it back to you in the form of response. Either it is HTTPS response or HTTP response, or maybe TCP or UDP, whatever the protocol you may choose, right? It will be like a queue. A service can be executed at the back end by this particular AWS service. So this is the application service, so which can take the request from you and gives back the response from either in the HTTPS or maybe in the different format, whatever the protocol that depends on your particular application again. Maybe typically everybody uses HTTPS, because the cloud Whenever you are connected to the cloud console, it should be connected over the world wide web. There is no other way for us unless and until it is a private cloud. Okay. So if it is a private cloud which was deployed in your organization, of course, then also you have to use the HTTP. But the thing is that it is there in your network. But what does it mean? That doesn't that it means that it is connected over to your system. That means that application have to contact with your system or a network. Okay. So if it is to be executed, then in the back end some queuing service have to be run. So same scenarios in the Google. So AWS is called as SQS, Simple Queuing Service. In AWS, it is called as Simple Queuing Service. In Google, it is called as Google Task Queuing Services. So whatever the tasks you are assigning to that particular cloud console, so it have to execute on the back end by using Google Task Queuing Services. And in Azure, it is called as Azure Queue Service. Azure Queuing Services. Azure Queuing Service. So these are the different types of queuing services which were available in different cloud platforms. Sir, always you are saying that these are the cloud platforms, these are the cloud platforms, these are the cloud. So why you are not mentioning all the other cloud platforms? Of course, we can mention other cloud platforms also, but these are the major or majority game players of the market. That is, if you can go for a corporate company, any corporate company, they are using only either AWS or Google and Azure. That is why we have kept these scenarios in our textbook. That means in our textbook, in the sense in our syllabus. So that is why we are talking about this. Of course, there are different kinds of clouds are also available, which are open source, but we are not talking about those. We are just talking about the queuing services of AWS, not only queuing services, compute, storage, and application. So this queuing service comes under the category of application service. Got my point? So this is about these are about queuing services. Okay. So then we have another services called as another wide variety of or another classification of service called as notification services. Okay. Another classification called as notification services. Okay. So we have talked about application services, and under the category of application services we have the queuing services. The next category is notification services. So this notification service, what does it mean? See, for example, if you want to get any notification, for example, I have launched a virtual machine in my AWS console, so that I need to get a notification out of it. So your virtual machine gets successfully launched. Okay. For example, if I want to store some information by using S3 service in cloud, so after creating a bucket, you have successfully created a bucket. In that bucket, you have stored some information. So you got some notification. So those notifications are triggered by a service called as SNS. A service called as SNS, Simple Notification Service. Okay. So it will support up to a memory of I think 16 KB. Okay. To give that particular notification, the message capacity or payload capacity of that particular message is only 16 KB. What is payload capacity? Payload capacity means, for example, I am saying that you have successfully launched a particular EC2 instance in AWS console. That is a message. The matter or the information which is there in that message is called as a payload. That is called as a payload. So the capacity is only of 16 KB here. And this is about AWS. And if you can go for Google, Google is also having a messaging service called as Google Cloud Messaging Service. Google Cloud Messaging Service or Google Cloud Messaging. It is. But the capacity of Google Cloud Messaging is only of 4 KB. Okay. So this is about Google Cloud Messaging. Okay. So this is about Google Cloud Messaging, which is of 4 KB. This is also can be useful for only the notification. And we have another notification service called as in Azure. So it is called as Azure Notification Service. Azure Notification Service. Azure notification service. What Azure notification service can do? The same scenario. Whatever the notifications you are generating are triggering at a particular task is completed, or if any error occurs, or if the task is completed, if it is successfully completed, so then the notifications will be triggered at the top right corner for any particular cloud platform. So those notification services are these on different cloud platforms. What are those notification services? For AWS, we have SNS, and for Google Cloud, we have Google Cloud Messaging, and for Azure, we have a Azure notification service. So these are the different notification services which we have in our different cloud platforms. Got my point? So do you have any doubts regarding this? If you have any doubts, please let me know. If you have any doubts, please let me know. So next category of services in application services are email services. Okay, we have another category called as email services. So what are these email services? So right now we are using Gmail. Am I right? We are using Gmail. So this Gmail service or Google email service. This is the Google email service which can be used to send some email over their particular cloud platform. So this is a Gmail server. Okay. And like that only we have a email service in AWS. So simple email service. The name itself it is indicating simple email service which can be used to send some notifications or to not the notifications to send some emails over the particular subscribers or maybe to anybody who are using that particular AWS. And in the textbook for Azure, it was not mentioned, but right now we are using Outlook. We are using Outlook for Microsoft. Okay, so this is also an email service. Outlook. In previously it is called as Hotmail. Right now it was got changed to Outlook Mail. Okay, so these are the email services which we are using in AWS and Google. Sorry, it is not Gmail. Google, and we have Microsoft Azure. So these are the different email services which we are using for our mail sending and receiving purpose for a particular kind of task. Okay, so this is about email services, and we have next category of services. There are n number of categories are there. We need to check it out. So what kind of categories they are maintaining? Yes. We have another service called as media services. Okay. So what is this media service? So for example, if I want to send some photos or if I want to send some videos, okay. So for example, if you have AWS, in AWS we have the media service is known as Elastic Transcoder. What is that? Elastic Transcoder. What is this Elastic Transcoder can do is, Elastic Transcoder can convert one file of a video or an image from one file to another format. For example, I have a video which is a format of MP4. So can be converted to 3GP or MP3 or MKV. So there are different formats. I think you know about these formats rather than me in a good way, because you will download a lot of movies and all those things. So it can convert this Elastic Transporter service can be used to convert one video file format to another video file format, or maybe one image file format to another image format. So that can be possible with Elastic Transporter service. And again, I have another media service in Google Cloud Platform is Google Image Manipulation Service. Google Image Manipulation Service. So with this service, what we can do is we can also manipulate the images and as well as videos. But initially, it was launched for only images. Rather after that, they are into also the videos. I think right now we are using photos. In our Google Photos are there now. It is also running in Google Cloud only. So without running these photos in the Google Cloud, it is not possible to store all the data in your devices or maybe in their on-premises servers at the corresponding data center. Because Google is having a huge traffic, a reliable huge traffic around the world or around the globe. So that they are initially they have launched with Google Image Manipulation Service, which can be used to convert one image from another format. And rather than after that, they are also into some video converters also. For example, if you can change some the video from one format to another format, it is possible with the Google Image Manipulation Service. And we have in Azure we have I think Azure. What is that? Yeah, it is called as Windows. It is called as Windows Azure Media Services. Again, this is also for the purpose of only manipulation of photos and videos. This is also for the purpose of manipulation of photos and videos from one file format to another format. Okay, so this is comes under the category of media services. What are those? AWS is having Elastic Transcoder. Okay, so which can be used to convert one video to another video from one format to another format, and as well as the photos and the images which we are using for our kind of purpose. And Google is also using another service called as Google Image Manipulation Service. Okay, and Azure is using Windows Azure Media Services for the same purpose. So this is under the category of media services. What is that? Media services. So, and this is the category of media services. And the next category is we have yeah, we have content delivery services. We have content delivery services. What are these content delivery services? Already I have told you in the earlier class about content delivery. See, what is content delivery? That means your particular application, for example, your particular application is launched in a cloud console, in a cloud platform. Okay. So at the back end, or maybe from your application, a huge amount of data is generating. A huge amount of data is generating, and moreover that, so the content have to be used by different users. For example, this app was used by different users. Okay. So for example, if you are using this app by a different number of users, so this data will be saved at some, again, we have a data center. This is called as, represented as DC, which is this app data will be stored at some DC, okay, on some different kinds of virtual machines. Getting my point? So for example, if a user wants to store his data, he can store the data directly into DC. So now, if a user wants to retrieve his data, so he has to retrieve the data from the DC or the virtual machine which is located at a corresponding place. Now, if a user is continuously retrieving the same data for more number of times, what you will do? What you will do? So for that particular purpose, so for the same particular data, you are continuously hitting the data center or the virtual machine which is located in the data center. So unnecessarily the data transfer cost will be increased. Data transfer cost will be increases. So in order to reduce the overhead on that virtual machine and sending the request from the application server to the data center or to the virtual machine, so rather than that, they are maintaining some edge locations. They are maintaining some edge locations. So these edge locations these edge locations can be ran with a service. So before going to that service, what is this edge location? Edge location in the sense, whatever the users frequently accessing the data from this particular kind of databases which were running in the data center virtually. So those frequent instructions got to be saved into this edge location. Are you getting my point? You have an application server, okay, in the cloud console. Okay, so that application server's data is to be used by any other users, or maybe that user continuously retrieving the same data for more number of times. So if suppose if he wants to access the data more number of times frequently, he have to go to the data center or maybe to the database where the virtually the data is located. Okay, so if suppose if we are doing the or if you are retrieving the same data by different number of users or maybe with the same number of users, what happens? The data transfer cost may be increased up because for the same instruction, why we need to go for all? I have to get a chalk piece. Okay, so if I have to get a chalk piece, what I have to do? I have to go to HOD room. Okay, so for the same chalk piece, shall I have to go for n number of times? So it is a waste of my energy. Rather than that, bring those chalk pieces or 5 or 6 pieces at a particular location and keep it there and use them. That is my concept. Like that only, here also, if you want to get the access of the particular data frequently, so what you need to do in order to reduce the overhead on that particular application server's access to that particular data which is there in the virtual machine and which is resided in the data center. So rather than that, this data center or maybe this database virtually located in this data center maintains that keep frequently used data in the edge location. The edge location. Okay, this is the frequent user data by this application by using some different methods. Okay, so now, for example, an instruction A1 is to be fetched by this user 1 for fetched by this user from the database for 10 times. So if you are keep on getting this A1 instruction for 10 or 100 or 200 times, you will maintain that instruction in the edge location based on some threshold value. We will keep a threshold value for that particular point of access of data because if you are keep on accessing this data for 100 number of times, definitely it will be a frequent instruction and this instruction will be stored in this edge location. Okay, so now again if A1 is to be fetched by another user or maybe the same user, so the app should not go to access the database which is there in the DT. Rather than that, it have to access the edge location. It have to access the edge location. So this edge location will be maintained by the again the cloud services. Okay, and that content have to be retrieved from this particular edge location to the application, and application have to give the render the services to the corresponding user. So that content delivery is service can be rendered by AWS by using a service called as CloudFront. What is that? CloudFront. CloudFront service. So this is a content delivery service or content delivery network service which can be accessed in edge location. It can be accessed at edge location. In the edge locations, for example, in order to keep the frequent instructions, so you will maintain that edge location that can be fulfilled by the service called as AWS Cloud. In Google, in the textbook, I don't know, they haven't mentioned the Google's edge location. Google maintains some edge location. It is called as edge location. In AWS, it is called as CloudFront. In Google, it is called as edge location. Okay, and but Azure, it is called as content delivery network. It is called as a content delivery network service. Directly, the name itself it is indicating in Azure, it is a content delivery network service. I hope you guys understand about this particular concept. Okay, so if suppose if any app wants to pump a huge number of data, or if it is pumping huge number of data, or not pumping huge number of data is not, that doesn't matter. But the thing is that if the users are accessing this particular application for a frequent executed instruction, this app should not go to the database where the data is located virtually in the data center. Rather than that, it have to maintain. That means that cloud platform have to maintain that edge location. So that edge location will be fulfilled the frequent accessible instructions for the users. Okay. So in AWS, these edge locations are maintained or rendered the services with a service named as AWS Cloud Front. Okay. In Google, it is maintained as edge location. The name itself it is indicating it is edge location. And in Azure, it is called as content delivery network. Azure, it is called as content delivery network. So these are called as content delivery services in different cloud platforms. In AWS, it is CloudFront. In Google, it is called as edge location, and in Azure, it is called as content delivery network. Got my point? So this is also one of the category of application services in the cloud platform. Okay. So we will go for the next category of services. I hope you understood about these kind of services. These are very much important. So at least you have to know it. Whether you will get it in the exam or not, that doesn't matter. But you have to know about what, at least the name of the service and what it will do. Those things you have to know. For example, if you want to write AWS Cloud Practitioner exam, so there is a certification called AWS Cloud Practitioner. So you can write that exam by knowing all these services. Suppose if you know about all these services in a specified or in a specific or in a detailed way, you can clear that exam. We have to pay for that exam. So we need to pay for 15,000 or 20,000 for that particular exam in order to get that certification. But it will be useful for you once if you are into a company, or if you are not into a company also, it is very much important, because you have a certification which will be given by AWS directly. That AWS guys can directly recruit you. There is a chance. Okay. And there is another category of services called as another type of category of services called as analytics services. So this is pretty much interesting. So if you want to do analysis, because right now the world is running with the huge pumping of data from different sources. So if you can get inferences out of it, and if you can do some analysis out of it, so you need some a huge tool which can process the data in a very efficient way. Okay. So for that you need some software mechanism or software tool to process that data. For example, everybody talking about big data, right? Everybody is talking about big data. We have three V's: volume, veracity, and variety. And if you have these characteristics for your data, it is called as big data. Of course, it is called as big data, but who can handle it? How you have to process it, and what is the need of processing it, and where we will use that inference of that particular data. So those things were very much important for any particular kind of application. So for example, if you have a data of 1 lakh records of health data or hospital data, so you have big data. But the thing is that you have patient records and you have patient reports and all those kind of stuff. So what you will do out of it, and how you will do that analysis, and what is the tool which you are using. Excel cannot do all these things. Right or wrong? If you have 1 lakh or 1 crore records of data, Excel cannot do it. And if your size of your data is 1 terabyte or maybe zettabytes, hexabytes, petabytes, we can't process all those particular data with these kind of tools. For that, we have a tool called Hadoop. Am I right? We have a tool called Hadoop. Everybody knows about this particular tool. Hadoop is an open source tool which can use a MapReduce paradigm. Which can use a MapReduce paradigm, the MapReduce model, which can be used to process the data which is in the form of unstructured or semi-structured by using some mechanism called as key value pair mechanism. Okay, we'll discuss all those things in the big data analytics chapter, but I want right now, I want to know about some analytics services in my cloud platform. What are the different analytics services are there in cloud platforms? Those things I need to know. So for that, this MapReduce is needed for any kind of unstructured or semi-structured data. Okay, so if suppose if I have an unstructured data is there in my cluster, for example, data is to be created as a cluster. So we will form Hadoop clusters, but how we are creating those clusters in on-premises environment. In on-premises environment means in our lab we'll create 2 or 3 systems as a cluster and we'll run Hadoop jobs parallelly on that particular machine. That can be possible by creating some different types of nodes, like in standalone mode or in multi-worker node modes and primary slave mode. There are different kinds of modes are there for this particular MapReduce paradigm. So, but what I have to do is I have to run the same jobs, those MapReduce jobs in AWS. Okay. So those MapReduce jobs have to be run in AWS. How it can be done? So what is the service is there for AWS? AWS have developed their own paradigm called as EMR. This is called as EMR, Elastic MapReduce. So the same scenario, no? Why? What is the difference between EMR and our Hadoop clusters, which we are deploying it in the on-premises environment? There is a slight difference. The slight difference is that Elastic, I can create any number of clusters by using this EMR. Okay, sir, MapReduce paradigm is already open source. What Amazon will do here? Yes, of course, Hadoop is managed by Apache. I think everybody knows about this. Apache is open source. It is an open source project which was developed for the Hadoop, which was developed the Hadoop components with the Apache project work. So now what these guys will do is they have developed their own MapReduce paradigm. The same MapReduce concept was used here because it is open source. And rather than that, they have created a facility called elasticity. That means in cloud platforms, we can create any number of virtual clusters. It is possible. Am I right or wrong? Because I have n number of virtual machines which are already running in our cloud, so that I can create any number of virtual clusters. But whereas when you are going for lab or a workstation or the on-premises environment, it is not possible for me to create these clusters in on-premises environment. So that is the beauty of this particular Elastic MapReduce. So this is an analytics service which can be used to run your analytics jobs, data analysis jobs, or maybe parallel processing, parallel computing, and all those things will be done by Elastic MapReduce. And moreover that it is specifically used for, of course, structured data can also be used for, it is for semi-structured, and for unstructured data. It is mostly useful for these two things. Of course, structured can also be handled, but structured, we won't handle structured data with these EMR jobs or Elastic MapReduce jobs, because we know that in relational databases, everything will be based on relations, like primary key is there, primary key is a reference point for foreign key, and all these things, right? So, but in key value phase, it is not like this. Okay, so we will use in AWS, we have a service called as EMR, Elastic MapReduce, EMR. Okay, so this is about AWS platform. And when you are going for Google, again, there are two types again. Right one? Yeah. Google is also using the same MapReduce service. The name it is called as Google MapReduce service. It is using Google MapReduce service for your unstructured and semi-structured data. But for your relational databases, if you have a data store, for example, I have a big data store and I have to run a query which can process 20 terabytes of data or maybe 30 petabytes of data, which is a structured data, not unstructured or semi-structured, then what I have to do? There is a service in Google that is a good service called BigQuery. There is a service called as BigQuery. This service can be helpful for you to run a huge query. Huge query in the sense it is in the size of 20 or in terabytes, in petabytes, and in zettabytes if you have a query, so which can be processed. And moreover that it should be in a structured format, not in unstructured format. Okay, for the unstructured format, you have a unstructured format of data, you have a service called as Google Mapping. Okay, so this is about in the Google Cloud Platform. But then you are going for Azure. We have a service called as Azure HD Insight, on which we can run our MapReduce jobs. The name is different. Okay, so the same process here will be done, but the names of the services are different because those are different vendors. AWS is a vendor, Google is a vendor, and Azure is a vendor. The vendors may be different, but the process of doing the jobs and all those things are same. And all these platforms are using open source Hadoop framework, that is MapReduce framework will be used by these fellows. Okay, but there is another extra service is there in Google called as BigQuery. It can be used to query the amount of huge queries. If you want to process the huge queries, you need to go for that too. It is a structured query. Again, you have to say that it is in the form of SQL. Okay, so then we can use the service called as BigQuery. So these are the analytics services. Okay, so this is one of the category of application services in cloud. Okay, we have three vendors. We are talking about three vendors. All those were discussed here. And finally, I think we have yeah, we have deployment and management services. Deployment and management services. For example, you have a particular application which you have developed in on-premises environment. Okay, and I want to deploy that application directly without installing any kind of server, without installing any database. Okay, you just need sorry, you just need to directly deploy that kind of application into cloud. Okay, if you want to deploy a particular application which you want to deploy it in cloud directly without management of servers or database servers or maybe application servers. So you have a service called as Amazon in AWS. I'm talking about Amazon Elastic Beanstalk. What is it? Amazon Elastic Beanstalk. So this service can provide you the on-demand servers without knowledge of the user. So for example, I have developed an application PHP. Okay, my front end was written in PHP and back end was done by MySQL. Okay, so simply I can what I can do is we have a resource file, right? We have a source file. So you will write some code now. So you can directly upload that code directly into Elastic Beanstalk. Automatically it will detect the environment of your application and automatically gives you kind of services which you want. If suppose if your database is in the MySQL, it will automatically arranges you that database. So that is the nature of Amazon Elastic Beanstalk. And if your particular company is into different services, okay, so you are doing content delivery, okay, this content delivery was done by an application. If you want to content delivery was done by an application, okay, if this application is to be run in the cloud environment means you have to again use EC2 because without virtual machine I can't do anything now. And this EC2 instance was launched in some security group, and again this EC2 instance this app requires some storage S3. So now this is a huge headache for me to install or to take care of all these things. Rather than that, we have a service called as Cloud Formation. We have a deployment and management service called as Cloud Formation. So this Cloud Formation will take care about content delivery because our application is for the purpose of content delivery, and this application or this service also take care about this application, how you have installed and what is the health of that application. For example, your application server was got hit by huge number of hits. Again, it have to take care of the health of the application. Health of the application means maybe it can be decreased with the bandwidth because for example the application server's bandwidth is only 10 MB. So automatically what happens? So if suppose if 1,000 users were got hitted immediately onto this application, automatically it may get down. So whenever it is getting down, this cloud formation have to inform us because it have to take care this application's load balancing, auto scaling, and again for that particular application load balancing, you have to take care of the load balancers and auto scaling, and the health of the application and the metrics have to be taken care by CloudWatch. So all these services were grouped together and kept it in a single space called as, and these are all to be managed by this service called as cloud formation. So whatever the services you are using for a particular purpose, for a particular application which you have deployed in the AWS cloud, so those things can be again managed by a supervisor. That service is called as cloud formation. That service is called as cloud formation. Are you getting my point or not? So these are the deployment and management services. Okay. So we can talk about more and more number of services, but these are the limited number of services which we have in the textbook and as well as in the syllabus. Okay. So this there ends your second unit. And if you have any doubts, please let me know and throw your questions, and I'm ready to answer those things. And I have forgotten to say, we have another type of services called as identity and this is called as IAM services, identity and access management services. So if suppose if a particular cloud user wants to access the cloud console, again you need to have some access control, and your particular cloud have to give some access control for him. That is authorization, authentication. Okay. And moreover that, if suppose if you want to launch a VM in the cloud, again we are maintaining some security groups. Okay. So whenever you are creating a security group, again we are creating a key type, public key and private key. So for example, if I want to access your instance, that is not possible for me unless and until I have a public key, and you have to decrypt the public key with your private key. So the combination of public and private key will open that instance and give the access of that instance to me. So that is called as access control again. So these are to be maintained by the services called as IAM services. Okay. So this is about the typical different kinds of application services which we are using in different cloud platforms. Of course, Azure, Google, and as well as AWS will follow the same kind of identity and access management services around the cloud platforms. Okay. So with this, we have completed our. Please let me know.